Good afternoon. My name is Judith Gasper. I am a master's candidate in applied nutrition at University of New England. I am here to share my research study on nutrition education's effect on competitive ballroom dance athletes meeting their estimated energy requirement. So here's a quick overview of this study. We'll discuss the background, the problem, what the literature review revealed, what gap we found, and what's the hypothesis. In the objective to evaluate the effectiveness of a nutrition education session. The study design was built on intervention group and control group. Then what tests we used to compare the two groups, and in the results, what is the expected outcome, the increased nutrition knowledge and frequency of meeting the EER. And as a conclusion, we'll talk about the impact of this study as well as the potential implications for future research. Ballroom dancing for some people is a social activity, while for others it's a competitive sport. There are a few studies where researchers observed competitive ballroom dance athletes' energy expenditure in competition simulations, and they found that it is a heavy exercise, it requires strong energy expenditure, and it has a high physical demand on the athletes. Both aerobic and anaerobic energy systems are close to maximum capacity. We were interested in finding information on ballroom dance athletes, their nutrition knowledge, whether they meet their estimated energy requirements, and if nutrition education increases nutrition knowledge as well as meeting their energy requirement. Therefore, we conducted a literature review. We identified studies through database search as well as Google Scholar. So the total results were 899 after exclusion for non-relevance and duplicates, as well as exclusion for not meeting inclusion criteria. There were 20 studies left for evaluation. So here are the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Let's see, the inclusion criteria are language had to be in English, year range dated 2000 or after. As far as the study design, it had to have a nutrition education intervention, the health status of the athletes, any without diagnosed disease, size of study group had to be more than 10, and the intervention had to target adolescent competitive athletes of any sport. The exclusion criteria were languages other than English, if it was dated before 2000, the study design, if there was no nutrition education intervention, health status, athletes with diagnosed disease, nutrition-related problem, critical illness, and if the study group was less than 10. So what does research tell us? Ballroom dancing is a heavy exercise. However, very little is known about the energy intake of competitive ballroom dance athletes and the frequency of meeting their EER. Of the studies included in the evaluation, none was done on ballroom dance athletes, and when ballroom dance was combined with search terms such as nutrition knowledge, nutrition education intervention, adolescent athletes, and meeting EER, no results were found. So there's no research done on ballroom dance athletes as far as their nutrition knowledge, their energy intake, and the frequency of meeting their EER. The research identified other studies where it showed that energy intake of athletes is under the required level, which has been studied in other sports such as soccer and gymnastics. And this research also showed that nutrition education increases nutrition knowledge and the frequency of meeting EER of athletes in various sports. So out of the 20 studies that were included for evaluation, 11 showed significant improvement in nutrition knowledge and meeting EER after nutrition intervention. 8 showed positive but not significant outcome, and 1 study showed no positive outcome. However, it was only a one-time intervention. The literature review showed that there is a gap. There is a lack of research on competitive ballroom dance athletes and if nutrition education increases nutrition knowledge and increases the frequency of meeting their EER. Based on this gap, we designed a nutrition education intervention study. The null hypothesis is 12 two-hour nutrition education session over 12 weeks will not increase the frequency of meeting the EER of competitive ballroom dance athletes aged 10 to 14 compared to a control group. And the alternative hypothesis is that 12 two-hour nutrition education session over 12 weeks will increase the frequency of meeting the EER of competitive ballroom dance athletes aged 10 to 14 compared to a control group. So the objective is to set up a research study that will examine the effect of nutrition education on ballroom dance athletes aged 10 to 14 compared to a control group, which brings up the question, why did we choose age 10 to 14? First, the target population, we wanted 10 to 18 adolescents, young athletes. However, that brought up problems as far as height, weight, and nutrient needs are very different of a 10-year-old versus an 18-year-old. Therefore, the change was made, and the reason for this age group is because of the similarities in height and weight and nutrient needs. Based on this, more consistent results can be expected, which increase the reliability and validity of the study. And now let's look at the study design, settings, and participants. Purposive sampling was chosen. Ballroom dance athletes from the New England area will be invited. Participation is voluntary. Sample size is 50, accounting for attrition. G-power a priori showed 45. Checking for normalcy within the group, chi-square tests will be used to check boys and girls' weight and height. And calculating estimated energy requirements based on Mifflin-Senjor equations for resting metabolic rate multiplied by the physical activity level, multiplication factor, and adjusted for age. The 50 participants will be divided into intervention group and control group, 25 athletes in each group. The intervention group will receive 12 two-hour nutrition education sessions over 12 weeks about EER, nutrients, food groups, and portion and proportion before trainings and competitions. Why 12 weeks? Education intervention is most effective if it's for at least 12 weeks, recent research shows. The control group will receive information sheet only, and the curriculum will be the Eat Right Now by Drexel University's High School Sports Nutrition Lesson Plan. And here are what we're going to measure, the measurable outcome and analysis. Compare the means of the intervention group's daily energy intake pre and post intervention. T-test will be used to show the p-value. Compare the means of the control group's daily energy intake pre and post intervention. Also, T-test will be used to show the p-value. And improvement of energy intake pre-test, post-test, ANOVA will be used for the p-value. And chi-square test will be used to analyze frequencies of intervention and control groups meeting their EER pre and post intervention. The two-tailed chi-square test is used to analyze the frequencies of intervention and control groups meeting their EER post intervention. We're not sure whether the nutrition education will show positive or negative results in case of ballroom dance athletes. So here are the expected results of this study. We hypothesize that education intervention will increase athletes' nutrition knowledge, and it will increase the frequency of meeting their EER. If that's the case, then increased nutrition knowledge and athletes meeting their EER will be considered a positive outcome. And this study can line up with previous studies that shows that nutrition education is important and increases knowledge and meeting EER. Based on this, coaches as well as parents of youth athletes should work with nutrition professionals to provide education for competitive ballroom dance athletes. And as far as the conclusion of this study, we hope that there will be a direct positive impact on participants, coaches, parents, as well as the athletes would take nutrition into consideration in preparation for competitions in the future. What worked well? We hope that the curriculum would work well and would be a valuable asset, and athletes would find it exciting way to learn about nutrition. The potential implications for the future. Well, we hope that national governing bodies of ballroom dance athletes would consider the results of this study significant, and therefore they would include nutrition education in ballroom dance training programs on a national level in the future. And as far as the limitation of the work, the population of this study was regional, and it was a small sample size. So further research would need to be done in order to have strong conclusion of positive outcome. Well, with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope that you found this presentation interesting and thought-provoking. And thank you. And at the end here, there are the references that I used. Thank you for your attention and have a good day.